There are times in our life that can define us, tell us who we are. We go around thinking we know how the world works, and then these moments hit us like a freight train. Suddenly we realize that we know nothing at all. This is one of those instances, and it's something that you won't be prepared for no matter how much you think you could be. I thought I was. That I knew what to expect. I was wrong. And maybe your experience will be different than mine. Maybe you can press your luck. If so, listen carefully. What follows may save your life, should you see the Wandering Campfire. It likes the dark. This fact has been confirmed by all eyewitnesses. Some say that it's the shadows which attract the flickers of the blaze. Others say the light from their embers comes first, and the darkness follows. One thing's for certain, only at night will you see it. Not an ordinary night, of course, otherwise every Tom, Frank, and Harry would have seen the damn thing. That'd be making things easy, and that's not how it works. It needs to be in the blackest night of the year, the kind of night where you can't see your hand in front of your face without a flashlight. You need to be stumbling, you need to be lost, so it can be found. Now, a map won't help you, but going deeper into the woods definitely will. In the forests, it can stay hidden, it can trick you. This is its turf, and you're just an intruder after all. So find a place that makes you feel uneasy, where there's no signs of life for miles. It may take some time, days perhaps, but then, if you're taking this journey, you know what lies ahead. It isn't meant for the faint of heart. Your time's already stolen from you the moment you start to look. But then it's already too late. Once you've passed the last known memories of civilization. You'll keep going, of course, deeper into the forest to listen to nature. But you shouldn't expect to come back. To those that do come back and change, one woman said she was enlightened. The universe suddenly turned upside down, and yet it all made sense, she said. More than it ever had. The unknown is tangible, if but for a moment. But don't expect it to suddenly be understood. Expect only your world to be transformed as well. I had already seen my fair share of bad luck before I went to the woods that day, having just come out of drug rehab just a week before. The accident had changed me, rotted my insides, made me bitter, my wife gone. No longer was I the stable rock she knew. I needed purpose again. Find the fire, my best friend Trudy told me. Trudy had been in and out of rehab several times before I showed up. So much so that the staff there called him a regular customer. We bonded because we were broken. I could see glimmers of myself in him. The man that lost everything, struggling to keep going for no reason at all. Trudy admitted that he had tried suicide several times, but the world kept pulling him back. He was the one that told me about the Wandering Campfire during a therapy session, of all places. The interventionist had asked, was there anything in the world that could give him a reason to go on? And Trudy paused, thoughtful, reflective. There was hurt in his eyes, like he was trying to suppress an old wound. But at the same time, someone was pouring salt into it. I'll never forget what he said. Nobody has a reason to go on, not really. We tell ourselves we do, and then we just keep suffering. Life's pain. I've accepted that. Death's a release. But it's a give and take. You don't get that freedom unless you give up everything. And that last bit of suffering can be hard to let it go. Because it's final, it's absolute. And that's terrifying. He took a sip of water, and I swear, no one could hear a pin drop. But he had more to say. There's a story I heard, he said, looking at me with dead eyes, about a campfire that moves in the darkest forest on Earth. It's a legend, probably older than all of us combined, but it's one that's always stuck with me. Its lonesome, burning signal, beckoning anyone who dares to come find it, offering something more freeing than death. These lonesome, burning signals beckoning anyone who dares to come find it, offering something more freeing than death. And what does it give? Can't believe that the staff asked this. Maybe they hoped that Trudy would break from the story and realize he was speaking gibberish. Maybe they genuinely were intrigued. I think that's the beauty of it, right? When you hear about something more exhilarating than life or death, something unknown, it's only force more powerful than that. He said he didn't know. Said he never had the guts to go look. Something told him that if he did, it would be beyond his comprehension to even explain. That was more terrifying than anything he'd ever experienced in life or in death. And after the session, I pulled him aside, asking more about the strange wandering campfire. Something like that. It couldn't be real. And if it was, what would make it so tantalizing to risk everything for? Trudy smiled. I was thinking of searching for it once I was clean. The world's made up of more than what's real and what's not. We both know that, he told me. Then he admitted how he really knew about the campfire. He'd seen it in his near-death experiences, right? A flickering blaze that was tugging at his soul. The fire could be the end of everything. Or it could be the beginning. We don't know, he admitted. And I still don't. Of course. Not even after what I'd seen. That night when I went, I brought with me supplies for 3 days. A bedroll, some water, some food. A hunting rifle to scare off wildlife. Nothing that would slow me down. Trudy had told me that once I found it, the chase would be on. The fire would draw me further away from reality and closer to the truth. Closest thing to the truth I'd ever experienced. I kept my senses about me at first. I think that's part of why it draws you in. There's nothing about the woods that made me feel comfortable. Been ages since I actually went for a hike of any kind. Not since before my accident. The world hasn't felt safe to even dare to explore, and I haven't had the energy to consider going out. But the stories of the campfire made me have that desire again. A reason to keep going. I'm never one to believe in ghosts, never even believed in God, so what made the campfire different? It was like people described their experiences. It felt authentic, it felt real. I knew some of them were fake. Those are easy enough to sift through. And when you feel the leaves crunching under your feet, and you don't know where you are, the stars in the sky start to all blend together. There's no fake in that. And that was what I was beginning to feel as the night got darker. The forest was closing in. The instructions told me to draw symbols on the forest floor, not to help me find my way home, but help the campfire find me. So the first sign you get, it'll be the smell. Most campfires have an earthy scent to them, something that makes you feel connected to nature. A soothing aroma that makes you feel comfortable. When you stand in the darkness and you etch those ancient runes in the dark, you aren't inviting anything that could be remotely considered pleasant. The smell, it'll hit you the same way you feel when you've seen a dead body, animal or human. Make you want to turn your head, vomit. I made the mistake of eating before I left the roads, so as it wafted over me, I began to hurl up my guts, feeling dizzy and faint. I could hardly keep myself standing. The world was spinning. I felt that I was going to fall off. This can last a few minutes or even a few hours, but the important thing is to go towards the smell. The repugnant odor is the only evidence you have so far that will connect you to the beyond. It's the first step to recognizing this reality you experience isn't so easily understood. As you keep moving, your first encounter with the campfire will be the most difficult. You'll see a flicker of fire that's gently nudging itself in and out of the darkness. Between the trees, it's hardly visible at all. You may tell yourself that your eyes are playing tricks on you because it'll seem as though each time you look away, the campfire will move. The key is to stay focused, no matter how much your eyes burn or how difficult it'll feel to walk. Your legs will be heavy. Your hands might be numb. But it'll be a black hole drawing you towards it. The closer you get, the faster it'll come to you. There'll be something different for everyone at the first sighting. But there'll always be a place to sit down. The fire will fill you with anxiety as you get closer. I felt the hair on the back of my neck stick up as I stood there facing it and realizing that the legends, they were all real. Part of me wanted to turn and run away. I mean, how far could it take me to return to the real world? An hour? A day? Could I even return at all? The mesmerizing flames told me that it wouldn't be possible. Instead, I would need to wait and watch, and see where the campfire took me. My journey into the beyond was starting here. We must offer the campfire something that you can't afford to lose. It's a part of the ritual that never wavers. It could be anything that was a part of your life, perhaps an important item given to you by a loved one, something that you don't want to leave behind. Picture, piece of jewelry. The instructions tell you that if the offering isn't good enough, the campfire will simply diffuse, the forest will return. You only get one chance. I didn't want to risk losing the opportunity. I took out the Swiss Army knife and held my hand near the log that was closest to the fire. The blade touched my ring finger and I closed my eyes, wondering if it would make any sense to even pray. I pressed down as hard as I could, blood spilling out as flesh was torn away. The blade made a quick cut. It was final and couldn't be taken back. The finger was severed from my body. At the same time, I pressed my bleeding hand towards my jacket, trying to hold back a scream. This was my offering. And I knew the fire would know its meaning, because attached to the flesh was my last memory of my wife. The golden ring that I vowed to keep no matter what. My last tangible connection to this world, and my first big step to the world beyond. The bleeding was still throbbing through my body as I picked up the ragged piece of flesh. I tossed it into the fire. The inferno blazed up, clouding my vision as I covered my eyes instinctively. Then the fire began to move. It had accepted the finger and was taking me somewhere else. I had only but a moment to grab my things and rush through the woods towards it. I wish I had hesitated. I wish I hadn't taken this insane journey, but I knew there was no turning back. I knew it more so than ever before. Past the point of no return, the Wandering Campfire was guiding me to the ultimate truth of existence, and I was dragged towards it like a fish with a hook in its mouth. As you move forward, it'll feel as though you've gone nowhere. Have you ever driven through a long, dark tunnel? Kind that shows a glimmer of light, but the walls blend over and over as you go further down. That's what the forest will do to you. The trees will seemingly push themselves apart and then fall back into place as the campfire moves. At first it'll be a gentle flow. The ground itself won't move, or at least won't seem to. The closest way to describe it's walking on a treadmill. You go down that same path over and over, a carrot dangling in your face that tells you that you will reach the finish line. And yet each step you make towards the campfire, it's a little bit further away. Then the fire will start to feel further away. Again, nothing will change around you, but as you begin to walk towards it, it may feel as though the forest is going to reverse, except every part of you knows that you're going forward, trying to reach for that inescapable feeling of purpose. It's tantalizingly offering you. And then the forest will continue to fall away, the trees, the sky, the stars. Eventually nothing will be left, except for the campfire itself. The darkness of the ground will make you think that you're falling. You can't stop it. It's rushing towards you again. You feel that you're going to fall into the blaze. Finally, you're exactly where the force of nature wants you. The fire's large, almost as if it's encompassing the entire forest. And then you'll need to sit and wait. There's nothing to sit on, of course, only darkness. Gotta keep your eyes closed, trust that you don't fall. The rest will happen automatically. You'll feel that you're sitting in a cold, hard chair, and the fire will flicker and invite you to touch it. There won't be any warmth. You'll feel colder than you've ever felt in your entire life. A sense of dread will wash over you, and you'll feel that you're constantly waiting for something. All sense of time, night and day, or anything you once were clinging to, it's gonna be gone. And then across the fire, you'll see a figure. A darkness that stands tall and silently across the fire. An evil that you know is from beyond any hell that you could ever conjure up. I felt something heavy on my chest, a hot coal burning my skin. I couldn't speak. I knew that the instructions told me I shouldn't. This is the time to listen. The shadow would do the talking. It uttered my name first, as it seemed to sit down. I numbly nodded, a breath of icy air hitting my bones. Do you understand where you are? It asked. I couldn't help but be surprised. It was offering me the chance to answer something I was sure I wasn't supposed to do. Instead, I kept quiet as it repeated the question several times until at last it became angry and tossed embers toward my face. If you don't know, then what brought you here? The fires hit me and I instinctively screamed. I thought that moment was my last in this life. Instead, the shadow simply lingered, waiting for me to actually tell my story. I was in an accident about 12 months ago, I said, hardly recognizing my own voice. Was I doing the talking, or was it still the shadow? It felt as though we both shared the same resonance in that moment. My wife and I, we were going to this function. It was a horrible storm. I told her that we shouldn't go. She insisted that it mattered, but the ice on the road, the black ice, I couldn't see it. I hit it hard, and my reflexes got the better of me. The car tumbled end over end down the highway. We collided with 4 other cars. I felt everything. The intense pain shook through my body. It kept me awake as I saw bodies piling up around me. 8 cars, at least. 13 dead. Several children included. Along with my wife. The news called it the worst accident in the history of the state in the past 10 years. I don't know if that's true, but I died that day. I saw everything that I ever loved taken from me. I was one of the few still standing. One of the few that crawled out with hardly anything but bruises. People told me it was God, a miracle, to help me appreciate life. I turned to drugs. I turned to suicide. None of it ever left me satisfied. I don't believe any of those answers. I think I had to come here to find this fire, to see the beyond, so I could understand As I finished my story, silence loomed between us. The figure stood there staring either at me or at the campfire, saying nothing, trying to determine if I should live or if I should die. I wanted my suffering to end. I wanted absolution, but instead, a cold, dead laugh rumbled through the darkness. It made me feel like nothing. It made me suddenly aware that my suffering, my very existence, was meaningless. In the grand universe, my problems, my heartbreak, would all be eventually consumed by a fire much like the one sitting in front of me. Nothingness is eternal. Misery and pain are life. Endlessness is the only absolute serenity that anyone can obtain. When you kept living, you thought it meant you had purpose. You thought it might mean your life would have a reason. No life does. Nothing does. Existence is chaos. The shadow told me as it grew taller. Long, slender arms reaching up and beyond the view of the fire, like a spider's legs reaching for a prone fly that was caught in a web. Then those arms morphed into claws, razor-sharp tendrils that began to snake their way towards me. Let me offer you the freedom of non-existence, the shadow rumbled, as the entire forest began to push its way back towards us. It felt that I was being swallowed whole by the woods. The trees were melting into twisted and rotten flesh, sliding down to the ground and becoming blackened, burnt fingers that were reaching to drag me to the inferno. The branches snapped and turned towards me, the hollow wood morphing into the faces of people that I had hurt, I had harmed, all snarling and snapping their jagged teeth towards me. Suddenly I felt the urge to run, to live. No matter the moment of suffering that I was enduring, I couldn't end my life here. The reflection of my wife's face came into the campfire. Her soft eyes urged me to action, and then those same comfortable eyes turned dead cold, drained. This is the end. The end of everything. This was all that the campfire would ever offer me. It was all that anyone could ever grasp or understand. The shadow was covering the entire sky, its laughter echoing through the forest. Sharp spikes rippled across the floor, and the canopy became filled with falling knives. My back was torn to ribbons. My running soon became a crawl. I was falling to the earth into the eternal wandering blaze. All it wanted was my suffering to fuel the flames. My legs hit the fire, scarring my back, ankles, and feet first, as I screamed and fought. The shadow kept lurching forward, towering over me as molten fire dripped onto my face. This is what I wanted. To suffer for my life, to pay for what I felt was my fault. But was this hell my freedom? Was my life null and void? Something stirred deep inside of me. I pushed my way towards the flames even further. I recognized this was the sacrifice I should have offered. My very soul. And only then would I get the absolution I sought. Flames engulfed my body as I struggled to cover my eyes. The campfire grew larger, and the laughter was covered over by the roaring fire. I was falling deeper, and the depths of darkness would melt away all of reality. And then I was rising. Pushing up back to the ground, spitting and sputtering like a newborn. I was hardly able to move as the fire disappeared, and my charred and blackened body lay prone on the forest floor. I was dead. I felt nothing. I was nothing. And then I was opening my eyes and looking at my beautiful wife. She looked so much younger, so kind and caring. She was standing at the campfire, about to jump in, and she was telling me that it was going to be okay. Move on, she said. Live and love. That was what my existence needed to be. I promised her I would. I promised I would make sense of the chaos that was given. And then the forest sky came back. the lonesome woods. I lay there for days, maybe, before other hikers found me. They didn't even know I was still human. Maybe I wasn't anymore. I was taken to heal, but part of me stayed there even now. I still feel the fire everywhere I go. It burns inside me. My soul is a part of this eternal, endless chaos. It's consuming others, giving them a peek into the unknown. I saw it there beyond death, the endless madness that'll devour us all. It was waiting in the fire. It was the shadow. And it's now inside me. I'm death walking on this earth, carrying the fire where I go, sharing my experiences to others who hunger for that freedom, enticing them to seek out the unknown. The campfire, it'll grow. It'll always move and make use of the weak and the fragile. But most importantly of all, it'll burn. It'll burn the world. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I want to tell you thanks so much for watching tonight's video or listening to tonight's episode of the podcast if you happen to be listening to this as a podcast, or as a YouTube, or however else you managed to have found this story for tonight. And as always, I would love to give a big thank you to everyone who's supporting me over on Patreon. You guys are the real MVPs. You guys keep things going, especially while things have been nuts for me over the past couple of months, and things have been getting crazier and crazier as time goes on. You guys are the ones who are keeping me sane, and I mean that with all sincerity, that you guys have helped me immensely. So, in my personal life and my professional life, I want to give a very big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Jakob Fenske, Burnett, Kraus, LaQueda, Canizales, MrCreepyPasta, PebisPleaser, Joseph Calarrudo, BuddhaBee, Dante, Kinkade, Foxhound 803, Mephistopheles, CursepoxPrimarch, Bastion, Beefcake, Jeff the Killer's Cultist, Love You M, INSANITYGamerX, Jesus Cornejo, Yarghoul, Kearns, himbojerry, SamaHigh, CrusaderChocobo, Atomaurus, Captain Scurvy, Escadine, Braden Morris, Nate Cull, Our Minsect Time, Angelus, Seclude, That Creepy Chick, Red Shadow Cat, Xavier and Cheyenne, 6 Gay Rats in a Trench Coat, Turtle Man, Cryolinium, Lord Life's Best, Goring Trimagazine, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Ika Limchok, Dirt Diver 030, Matt Bach, Voice of Sam, Shelly J, Fikamel, Deleted Account, Melted Lake, Tully Sue, William King, Sashi Suzaku, Stricken, Freddy Krueger, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Mog, Kiwi the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Nico Kaya, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Paulson, and Corey Kenshin. To everyone on this list, everyone in the description, and of course anyone who could support even just $1, thank you all so much for making my life significantly easier with this. And if you guys would like to be able to join any of the names that you see here or down there or anything at all, head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. And with that, I wish you all a very, very pleasant night and sweet dreams.